What up, world? 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 This is your main man. I am DJ Double Dose, man, and we are back. We are back, man. We got a lot. We got a lot to talk about, man. Let's go ahead and hop right into it, man. I am your main man. I am DJ Double Dose, man. For all my new people that's watching, man, this is Double Dose of Reality Sports, man. Powered by the Post Network, man. On the Roku channel, on the Roku app, man. Make sure that if you have not downloaded the channel, go to Roku, the Post Network. Make sure you download it, man. Go ahead and keep following us. We got a lot of content that is coming on the show, not just sports. We got fitness, we got real life talk, we got After Dark with the real spill, man. We got Hey Sis. I mean, we got a lot. We got Tuesdays and Thursdays, man. It's a lot going on the channel, man. So y'all make sure y'all tuned in to not just me, tune in to them as well, man. But hey, man, you read the caption, man. Spring is here. Oh. Let's go ahead and clap it up, man. Clap it up one time for the South Carolina women's basketball team, man, for completing the season undefeated, unscathed, unscarred. You know what I'm talking about, man? They sent little Caitlin. They sent little Caitlin on home packing. You know what I'm talking about, man? Give it up for the South Carolina Gamecocks for winning the women's national championship, man. And also, man, you got to give your hats off to them boys, the UConn Huskies, man, doing something that, hey, man, this is only the second time in my lifetime that I've seen it back to back. That is a major accomplishment, man. So shout out to the UConn Huskies, man. For those of y'all who went chalk and had them in your bracket pool, I guess you won your money. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about, man. But hey, man, it was fun. It's always fun. Tournament time, man. It's always great. It's a lot of gambling opportunities, a lot of office pools, man, a lot of Facebook pools, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're into, man. It always brings out a lot. But for the first time, I want to say for the first time, don't quote me on if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But for the first time, man, the women's national championship game actually got more views than the men's national championship game. So that lets you know the state of what women's basketball is. It is in great hands, man. Hey, man, listen. I don't care who was you a fan of, whether you were a fan of Caitlin, whether you were a fan of LSU with Reese, whether you were a fan of Don with South Carolina, whether you was a fan of Juju with USC, no matter who you was, man, we all were brought collectively and we sat down and we actually watched and enjoyed the period of women's college basketball, man. It was awesome, man. So again, hats off to Don Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks. Also, hats off to UConn, man. Now that we got the congratulations out the way, man, let's go ahead and get into it, man. You know what I'm saying? You see the title, Spring is Here. So what we're going to do over the next few episodes is we're going to be talking about spring ball, man, and what are our expectations and things that we are thinking of going into these different spring games. We all know that with spring ball, you kind of got to take the glass half full. You know, don't get too excited. Don't get overly excited. It is spring ball. You're not going to see everything that you want to see, but it is a culmination of the winter workouts. It's a combination for you to see the early enrollees get out there, you know what I'm saying, make some plays. So let's go ahead. Before we start talking about the games that are coming up for next week, let's go ahead and talk about a couple that go ahead and wrapped up that finished this past Saturday, man. And since, you know what, hold up. We're going to wait to talk about what happened down on the plains. We're going to wait. We're going to pump the brakes on that. Because this past week, Auburn had a lot going on this past week. So we're gonna talk about that in just we're going to talk about that a little more in depth in just a second. And let's talk about Clemson, man. You know, there are a lot of people who seem to think that what FSU was able to accomplish last year was a fluke. Mike Norvell is not going to be able to continue with. It was a shining moment that we should have captured. I mean, people forget that Florida State has won 3 national, but that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Clemson. Now, the one thing that is interesting about the Clemson spring game is, guess what? Outside of the people that went pro or graduated, a lot of new faces. That wasn't a lot. There were no new faces. You know why there were no new faces? Because Mr. Dabo doesn't want to dabble I know, terrible damn joke, but it's okay. Now y'all gonna get it. It's okay. It's okay. It's the off season. They get better during the season. It's the off season. They get better during the season. But Dabo doesn't. In case you don't know what's going on, for those of you that don't know, that may not care or really follow Clemson football, for those of you that don't know, Dabo Swinney isn't a fan of the transfer portal. Even though the teams that are his competition around him, Miami utilizes a transfer portal. We all know FSU utilizes a transfer portal. Hell, even the second tier guys, North Carolina, the likes of those, NC State. We will talk about them as we move along. Even NC State, look at the quarterback that they have. They're even utilizing the transfer portal. But you know who isn't utilizing the transfer portal? I give you one guess. His name starts with a D and it ends with an O. You know what I'm talking about? Clemson, Dabo, his philosophy. Now, look, don't get me wrong. Please do not get me wrong. Clemson has developed some amazing athletes. They have developed some guys who we watch on Sundays right now. So I am not going to sit here and tell you that Dabo's way doesn't work, but he could tweak it. Case in point. Now, last year, everybody tried this before going into last season. After the debacle that happened, everybody wants to go into last season. They say, hey, Clemson needs to do what? They need some new flavor. They need a new vibe. They need some more juice. So what do? They go out and they hire Lincoln's brother, Garrett. We saw what his offense was able to do at TCU. We saw how explosive that it was. So I was like, hey, you know what? We insert him into Clemson. They got a nice young quarterback with Cade Klubnik. Hey, there we go. Off and running. Offense should be humming. We all saw how that played itself out. But again, you could stand to say, hey, it was year one. The kid was his first year starting fully. He was trying to learn the system, trying to learn him. Hey, man, it's understandable. Although they had all world at running back, we all know who, and I'm so glad his ass is getting the hell on. Now, don't get me wrong, Moffitt is a load. But I would much rather deal with him than deal with that damn Shipley. Anyway. But so coming into the spring, you're starting year 2 with Garrett, year 2 with Cade Klubnik, quarterback. And I'm not saying we wanted to see some fireworks in the spring game, but we did want to see like a glimpse of what in the hell y'all been doing throughout the winter since the season ended. Needless to say, me and everybody else, we walked away from that spring game. I don't want to say disappointed because that's not a good way to put it. Because again, I cannot say temper your expectations for spring and then come out and say that spring game was terrible. I can't do both. I can't talk out of both sides of my ass. So therefore, I will not. But Cade looked as if this is going to be another long season for Clemson. Now, I say that about the offense. I'm going to continue to stand on it because Clemson's defense, especially Clemson's defensive line, whooped their offensive line's ass all day this past Saturday. And guess what? They're going to whoop a lot of people's ass throughout the season because that defensive line they have is grown as hell, even though they're young. And I think that was the scary part from last season coming back into this season. Clemson's defense in general really wasn't the issue last year. Really wasn't the issue. They just weren't able to get out of their own way because they kept turning the damn ball over on offense. That ultimately was what was their demise. So Clemson's D-line look like they're gonna be the truth. Probably ain't no probably. They look like right now, barring anything that happens over the summer, they will go into ACC Media Day with the best defensive line in the conference. They will, without 100% of doubt, they will go into it with the best defensive line going into the ACC. So my takeaway from the Clemson spring game is just get better. That's all it was. It's a preview. It's not nothing for you to get up in arms about. Just get better. And if you're a Clemson fan and you're watching this, don't take my words to heart. I'm actually being objective. I'm being objective right now. I'm not dissing you. Hey, I just gave you credit for your D-line. Your offense just needs to get better. They have some nice pieces. They've added, as far as recruiting-wise, not transfer portal, recruiting-wise, they have some nice pieces that they have added. And when you take that with what they have going on, because listen, Brian Wesco, freshman, look like he's going to be what he needs to be. So you take that with a grain of salt. And if you're a Clemson fan, you prepare yourself for, hey, what we always say, now that winter practices are over, spring game is done. You just hope everybody makes it through the summer, safe and sound, get back on campus, and get ready for the fall. So my takeaway from the Clemson spring game is just that simple. Just get better. That's it. We're not going to ask for more than that. Just get better, man. You have room for improvement. Continue to improve, and we will see come the fall how that plays itself out. Now, okay, got that positive note out of the way, man. Let's go ahead and head on down. Listen, there are my fellow compadre on the channel, third, with Tuesdays and the Thursdays. I know he's going to go way more in depth with Auburn than I will or ever will. You know what I'm saying? But I have one question, Auburn. This is just a general question that I have. I know the spring transfer portal window opens on the 15th, which is 5 days from now. You guys have just had your spring game. With all the firepower that Auburn has recruited, we're going to get to that, and then we're going to get to this special young man in just a minute. Is Peyton Thorne the answer going into this season? I say that candidly because the truth is the SEC is wide open this year. I know Bama fans. You may not want to admit it. I get it. Georgia fans. I don't think we're seeing a decline. I don't think so. But I also saw something last year in Georgia, especially on that D-line, that I hadn't seen in a few years, where they kind of got pushed around in a couple of games. Just saying. So with Georgia at the top of the mountain heat, I don't know. LSU's breaking in a new quarterback with Jane Daniels is gone, so they got to break in a new quarterback. Alabama's breaking in a whole new offensive system. Forget shit. They breaking in a whole new offensive system. Okay? Tennessee got a new face at quarterback. Lane down at Ole Miss, he cooking. He all in. We know what Lane is at with it. He all chips in. So my question, and the reason why I preface that and I say it in that way, is if you are Auburn and you are Hugh Freeze and you look at this and you look at year one under Hugh Freeze, it definitely has some highs and it definitely has some fucking lows, for sure. However, the SEC is wide open. I mean, you can look at Texas and you can say, hey, USC is coming back. They still got Arch Manning. We hadn't seen them. In the game, but they got Arch Manning. We don't know what the hell Oklahoma gonna do in the SEC. Nobody knows. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what Florida is going to be, and I can go so forth and so forth. So with all that being said, the SEC is wide open. And if it's wide open and there is an opportunity, which basically could be We all know how dynamic quarterbacks can make or break your season. It's like we don't like to continue on them. However, they can if you have a special one, or if you have a special defense with a quarterback that is comparable. We've seen where that can take you. So I asked the question, is Peyton Thorne the answer? Is that what we are going into the season with? Or will Hugh Freeze make a move at a quarterback going into the spring transfer portal? That's something we're going to revisit. That's just a question. It was a long-winded way around it, but that's just a question I have for Auburn. So that was just my question. I'm not saying that I don't think that Peyton Thorne can get it done. Not saying that at all, but I'm looking at what you guys added, and my God, hats off to this kid, man. You know, sometimes guys are highly recruited and you just want to see it. You know, whether you just want to see them make in the spring. This is what, you know, if you go back to the essence of what spring games were, that's what they were. You wanted to see the young kids get out there with the older guys, the veterans, and you want to see them come out there and just make a play or two. You know what I'm saying? Just make a play or two. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Cam Coleman's in the building. Cam Coleman is in the building. And if you thought he wasn't going to be as advertised, again, I say it again, don't take too much from it. Don't take too little from it. But after this Saturday coming up, we're going to talk about another special wide receiver up there at the Ohio State grown-ass man in Jeremiah Smith. We're going to talk about, I guarantee you, when we come back next week, I'm going to be saying some of the things I said about Cam Coleman, I'm going to be saying next week about Jeremiah. But in his first action, in his very first action, he finishes the day with 92 yards and a touchdown. Listen, some guys are just special. And I mentioned the part about Peyton Thorne first before I talked about him, because some guys are special. And within the SEC, there are certain games where all it takes is one special play that can decide whether or not, especially now with everybody that's added, you know, with Oklahoma and Texas in there, all it's going to take is one special play. And that could define whether or not you win or lose a game that you might not want supposed to win, but you pulled it out because of somebody of the likes of Cam Coleman making one of those special plays. So I'm just going to say this, man. I'm not going to heap too much praise on the kid because, again, it was a spring game. You know, it was a lot of moving pieces that go along with it. But if he continues on the pace that he's on with what he put on display this past Saturday, Auburn got a problem at wide receiver. Auburn has a problem at wide receiver, and it's going to be a sight to see, especially if they get the quarterback situation right. So that's my takeaway from the Auburn spring game. I mean, kicker, you know, the game ended with the 50-plus yard kick. Hey, man, listen, I saw a lot of Alabama fans ragging on that. Let me tell you something. We all know how finicky kickers is. We all know how that is mental with them. You may belittle that and say, hey, man, he's kicked a 50-yard kick, man, whatever the case may be. That could be the confidence that kid need to make a 50-yard kick in November. Just saying. Don't downplay things that happen. I'm just saying. So those were the two spring games that happened this past. Those were the two main spring games that happened this past weekend, man. Going into this weekend, it's a whole slew of them. We'll get into the results of them after. We're gonna have another show this week where we're gonna go more in depth. But you know, I just look at it like this, man. Enjoy it because this is the last bit of football from college wise that we're gonna get over these next few weeks. So, like I said at the end of the playoffs, man, enjoy it because after this, it's them dog days where we got from May until what, July? Yeah, May until media days. And media days is usually in July. So we got those 2 long months. You got all of May, all of June, where it's like, hey, so enjoy you, man. Embrace it, man. Also, shout out to Auburn again, man, for finally landing a Nike deal, man. You're no longer under Armour arm. You got your Nike deal, man. Hats off, man. Salute, man. I know people gonna be like, man, this is an Auburn heavy show. Not an Auburn fan. Oh, hey, man, they got some things going on, man, that need to be discussed. So we're gonna discuss it. I'm sure next week, or I'm sure after the Alabama game, we're gonna have a lot to say about what we did and we didn't see. Because know how y'all do. Know how y'all kind of overreact when it comes to shit. So trust me, there's gonna be a lot to talk about, man. NBA season is winding down. It's pretty much done, man. I think we're gonna be interested to see how the seeding plays itself out. I kind of, you know what? Initially, I was not a fan of the play-in and all. I wasn't a fan of, but I salute Silver for continuing to try to do things to change the game with, to continue to move the game and change it up. So I'm unfortunately looking like my Lakers probably. I'm just gonna leave that alone. I ain't gonna say I've been on strike, but I purposely not said much about my Lakers this year. I purposely not say much about it. So we're gonna continue and we'll see how this plays itself out, man. And then once the seeding is set and once we know who plays who, we'll give our thoughts and opinions about the playoffs and who we feel like gonna end up making it to the finals, man. So my thing is about the spring games again. If you are a fan of a team, man, and you have the opportunity to maybe a 10-1, hey man, go ahead. If it's close to you, man, drive a distance, man, go ahead and the 10-1, man. But my team is way down in Tallahassee. I ain't going to spring game Saturday. Ron got his first soccer game this week, so I will be on dad duty watching 9-year-olds kick a soccer ball around. So, but it's all good, man. So I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming through, man. Thank you again. Also, make sure I'm going to end it the same way. Make sure that you go on the Roku app, the Roku channel, the Roku app, however you get it. Make sure you download the Post Network. That's where you can find my show. You can find a whole slew of other shows, man. We got a lot of content coming on the channel. So just make sure that you guys continue to follow us and reach out to me if you need some help or anything like that. Just reach out to me, man. And also just remember, man, to live, laugh, and love, man. Live your life to the fullest. Love on the people that love you back and find you something to laugh at each and every day. And Double Dose of Reality Sports, man. We out, man.